All right, we are here with the. Oh, this should be week 6, I think. Week 6 preview. Jamar Chase, your lead scorer last week, and I think now would be a good time to call back to when everyone passed on Jamar and fell. He fell to the 16th pick where Mark got him, and look how that's working out for Mark. So you all missed your opportunity there. I find that pretty hilarious still, but Ryan, you were one of the ones that passed on him too, weren't you?
I was,
You were in
yeah.
that like 6 to 16 range because I was 6 and I took Justin Jefferson. I was this close to taking Jamar, but I have Jamar in other leagues because obviously I'm biased, so I wanted to have Jefferson in the league, and that's working out great. But after me, everyone else who passed on him is an idiot. Unless you took like, who would it be? Derrick Henry or Kyron or one of those guys that's doing amazing. But
Oh, I
um,
did take Kyron and then
you,
traded him, but
sure. So
yeah.
you took
Anyway,
Kyron, not a bad look. Wait, and now you have him back?
I do. Yeah,
I
we'll
didn't
get into
realize it
that
went full
later.
circle
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, full
Um,
circle.
but anyway, getting into it, Joey is out of here. I forgot to put place. That would be 16th, I believe, after Cooper and Mitchell. Really, the injuries got to him. We've been over that. It's tough. It's just the way these guillotine leagues go sometimes. Oh, there you go, 16th. I did put it. And Jack getting 15th. I don't know. Jack's was interesting. He didn't really. I feel like Mitchell. Well, no, Mitchell's team just kind of had guys that didn't pan out. Joey because of injuries. Jack, I don't know. He just had one bad week. That's just how it is sometimes. His team wasn't bad. He just had one bad week, and that's all it took. So tough scene. He got resurrected and then almost gave it a good run last week.
And poor guy had Ayuk, who was just useless for um, you know, 3 weeks, and now Ayuk might be good too. So
Right.
kind of unfortunate for Jack. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to say Potter drafted Ayuk and then traded him in like week
he
1.
did. Yep, he did.
So
For
yeah,
Pitts and Fab, I believe.
yeah, good move, great move. I mean, now Ayuk's going to be
I
good,
hate, I hate Pitts. I don't know how people
but it's
can
just like
deal with him.
is he still in the top 10 of tight ends because tight ends are so bad this year?
Yeah, but Pitts will go from 15 to 0, and
Sure.
I have
So
no
will Mark
interest in
Andrews.
having that be on my team. Yeah.
But yeah, we got Ben in the Gulag this week. As we'll get into it, he had Saquon on bye, his star player. I think the fantasy like top scorer across all positions. I want to say through 4 weeks. So tough to have him on bye, but the rest of his team did not step up in his absence. So here he is.
Good pick, Ryan. Good pick, Ryan.
Good job. Hey, I picked him too. I had Jake and Ben.
Yeah, that's true. We did. We did.
So I wasn't out of it. Finally got one right, I guess you could say. Although it was a double week, so it feels less good. But the top 25% of last week, Mark, Johnny, and then me. Mark and Johnny both scoring like 150 plus, and I was at like 120 something. So it was a pretty big gap there. But average score here of 147, that is heavily up from last week at 123, up 19%. And the bottom 25% being Matt, Fleming, and Ryan. Average score here of 85, that is also up 11% from last week 76. I want to say last week when 2 weeks prior the average of the bottom was 81, and I thought that was kind of high. I would say this is pretty high as well, but this does not include Joey, Jack, or Ben. And this is just the average of these three right here. So Ryan, you've been here a couple times now.
I have been, and I'm also at 34 Fab. So, um, yeah, not in great shape given I've been getting ice cubes with low Fab, but
All right.
we're working through it.
I mean, I'm surprised to not see David here on this slide this week, but he got it done last week. But his team is looking pretty bad given all the injuries and now low Fab. But added this one back in. If you were here from last year, there wasn't really much to show just through 4 weeks. There still really isn't that much to show, but your red line is your bottom 25% average, your yellow is your league average, and your blue is your top 25% average. So just seeing that trend slightly go up. But week 1 did have our highest top 25% average until this past week. But this is 3 teams as opposed to 4 teams, so it's easier for the average to go up if it's just the top 3. Same with the bottom being just 3. So, yeah, trending up. That's all. Nothing really to say here. It should fluctuate throughout the year. It doesn't actually just go straight up. We'll see some bad weeks, especially with buys. All right, quick look at the Thursday night game. The Niners are 2-3, which is interesting. But now they play the Seahawks, who are on a 2-game losing streak. But we have a lot of players tonight. I have two new guys to my squad. I have Purdy and Kenneth Walker, who I just picked up, and I'm starting them both. So we'll see how that goes. Jordan Mason, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. I want to say Juwan might be a flex somewhere. San Fran D. I don't know if Gino. Actually, Jake might be starting Gino, but actually no. Jake has what's his
Hurts
face?
back.
Hurts back. So never mind. Charbonnet may be a flex play, but then DK, JSN, and Lockett are probably all startable, flexible. Niners favored over under 47, so it should be a high scoring game. Always good to start off the week strong. I felt good last week when Mooney scored me 27 on Thursday. Kind of makes me feel pretty safe going into the weekend already. But yeah, the Monday night game. Funny enough, this is, I realized, the Rodgers-Achilles game of last year when, or unless I, do I have that wrong? Wasn't it Buffalo playing the Jets when week 1 on Monday night? And that's when
I think you're right.
Yeah. And the Jets ended up winning the game anyway with like the Xavier Gibson like kick return. I don't know, crazy game. But now this is also Monday night. I don't know if it's the same home, whoever was at home, if it's the same, but either way, cool game, I guess. Now with the Jets without Robert Saleh, we'll see what they do. I don't know, Ryan, you think that's a good thing for the offense, for Brees, really, in particular, without Saleh?
No, I don't think it. I think they need to ditch Hackett for anything to come of the offense. But
yeah, because wasn't Hackett the play caller? Even though Hackett was the play caller, and he still is going to be the play caller.
No, he's not. He got removed of his play calling duties, but he's still the offensive coordinator. So
who's the head coach?
I'm not.
Or isn't someone? I haven't looked into this. Is someone not like the interim head coach?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the situation there, but maybe the theory is Rodgers maybe will have more say in the play calling, which could benefit the offense. We'll see. Bills are only favored by 2. That seems surprising. I would think it'd be more, but the Bills are kind of on a slump a little bit too. But a lot of guys here. Josh Allen, James Cook, Shakir, Keon Coleman might be a play. Kincaid, Buffalo defense. Rodgers, I don't know if it's being started. Probably not. Brees, Braylon Allen, Garrett Wilson, Lazard, and Conklin. Conklin is a maybe. He was pretty good last week. He got a good amount of catches. That's all you need from a tight end. But this may be a low-scoring game is the possibility here with the Jets' defense being pretty good. And the Bills' defense good too. You don't have to be that good of a defense, it seems to be, to stop this offense, this Jets' offense. But we'll see. All right, the Week 5 standings. Johnny hit that 600 mark. Only team to do it, so that means he's averaging about 120 a week. Probably next week I'll throw in the average, like your weekly scoring average next to your number to kind of show how that compares. Jack getting eliminated, even with the kind of him being the lowest scoring team 2 weeks ago, and then last week being the resurrected team and being in the bottom 3. He's still not in the bottom. Like there's still people that have scored less than him, like Jake, Ryan, and David, and Ben. But Ben's now in the Gulag, so kind of makes sense. So pretty funny how it works out. Jack had a good start to the season and then fell off. And I think that's really it to say here. Huff and Mark and JC all up there as well in points. All right, the economy, only 723 left in circulation. We're burning through it. I think last week we were at like 900 something. I spent like 50 on Kenneth Walker and James spent 50 on CD Lamb, so there's 100 of it. Yeah, not a lot of fab left, and Johnny has 128 of it. So he owns 18% of the market, and the average market share is 7% at $52. So he almost owns 3 times the average. Not quite.
I also gave Johnny 2 more fab last night, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, I forgot to. I did not get to that. So he really has 130, and Ryan has 34, and I did not update that on your personal slides anyway. But I like the move, Ryan. By the way, he's on buy, right?
I like it too. Yeah.
At first, no, go ahead.
No, I mean if he's gonna be, which granted it's a 1-game sample size, but if he's gonna be their wide receiver 1 with a Patrick Mahomes quarterback, I'll throw him in the flex spot for a couple weeks. Like no problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, I like the move. I tried to get him. I think I put a $0 bid on him, but all my other bids hit, so then I didn't have a roster spot for him. But I guess that 0 bid would not have hit because Johnny had put 1 on him.
Johnny bid 1, yeah.
But I would have liked him as a flex. I'd consider him. At first, I really liked the move because for $2, I was like, wow, Andy, you're playing him this week because I knew you were looking for a flex to replace Mark Andrews. But then I realized he's on bye, which is fine. But
I think I had accepted the reality that Mark Andrews is starting this week, and I was like, well, let's make sure this doesn't happen 2 weeks in a row. That was the rationale for the move. But
yeah,
we'll see. Gotta get
getting
through
Andrews, you got him for what, $1? I think it could be a good move
$1.
if he ends up panning out. But even last week, we saw this the third tight end. We saw this Gulag.
Oh, Cole, yeah. Oh,
Kohler.
Don't even
what the
put
hell
that
is
thought
that
in my head. Yeah, don't even. And he, who knows? I'm not excited to be starting Mark Andrews, but he did have 5 targets.
Yep.
And so maybe this is a sign of them deciding they want to use him. So
maybe.
Who knows? But yeah, I was not pleased to see.
But yeah, the first time a big white tight end caught a ball, I was like, oh, there's Andrews. It's like, nope, it's Kolar. Who the hell is this guy? So that was pretty funny. But now all 3 of them are getting used, it seems, which might not be good for Andrews, but who knows? And yeah, I didn't think there was much else to say. Oh, I forgot to paste in the new picture here. But so this is useless. Ignore this. Let's just move on. Who cares? Oh, yeah, the Grim Reapers. If you're new or don't remember this from last year, these are the players that are on eliminated teams' starting lineup. So if there's a guy that continues to be on teams that get eliminated, I'm keeping track of that. Through 4 weeks, there was not a single duplicate person. It was all new people on the starting teams. But now we have our first Grim Reaper of the season, and it is your boy Mark Andrews. We've got
he might be the first 3-time Grim Reaper after this week.
We'll see. He could be at 3. Now that players from eliminated teams are kind of all spread around now, it's more likely we'll start seeing some more Grim Reapers pop up on this board, and I'll keep throwing them up every week. But Mark Andrews is the guy right now who is.
And I think it was funny because last year like DK was a Grim Reaper, and
CD Lamb.
I think CD Lamb, and it's like, like you would throw the slide up. I'm like, this doesn't tell you anything. But I do think that was kind of a fluke. Like, I think we'll probably start to see guys who, they're on here for a reason. Mark Andrews is a very startable guy who's underperforming. So
right.
Kind of makes much more sense than CD and DK from last year.
So I'll counter that with guys like DK and CD. First off, they're good enough. They're going to be on a starting lineup every week. It's not just like they're a bad player. So they're going to be on a starting lineup, so the odds are already good that they'll be on an eliminated team. But the theory also would be they're such a good player that they make people feel safe.
Yeah, they're such a good player that you have to start them. And, everybody's going to have a bad week now and then. And if it's one of your top guys and they have a couple of bad weeks, they're probably causing people to get eliminated.
Yeah. I mean, CD and DK were on my team when I got eliminated, and they were not the problem either. It just happened to be that they were on. So it's not always that person is the problem. It's kind of random. But anyway, get the idea. Still going to track it for fun. All right, my week 5, I guess. Yeah, no, week 5 is my last week's kind of overview. The bye week effect, as we just saw with Ben without Saquon. I don't think Ben was really in danger. I thought his team was pretty average, and his running backs would lead the way. And then without Saquon for 1 week, he was gone because his other guys didn't step up. So the question is with bye weeks is, first off, how much should teams react when their studs are on bye, like Saquon? Should Ben have reacted more to it and tried to get someone better to fill in? And also kind of how we were just talking about with Ryan with Juju, and also Ryan trading for Kyron. Can you trade for players on bye for a discount? I don't think, Ryan, you necessarily got a discount on Kyron. You still spent a pretty good amount. But certainly Jake is much more willing to trade him when he's on bye, right?
Yeah, and I think the other, you're right. I think Jake, looking at his team and probably seeing the weaknesses in it, I would hope, probably alert you that, you need an upgrade. And I think the guys I gave Jake, like Zay Flowers is good for probably another month or two, but the rest of them probably have a couple more weeks, and I think it gives Jake some short-term security. But yeah, hopefully we can get some long-term use out of Kyron. So
Yeah, I think this is a trade that I think benefited both of you because Ryan, you were looking for some more long term security, and Jake kind of needs it now. He can deal with the long term later, but he was in a tough spot these last couple weeks and kind of just got by with a couple good performances. So I think ultimately that was a pretty balanced trade, I would say. And Jake also got more fab now, so he can work with it. But this week, I would say the three people who are most quote unquote in trouble because of bye weeks, me with Justin Jefferson. I think I have a pretty okay team. I can survive without him. But Ben might have thought the same thing. Ryan with Kyron. I mean, you just got him, but you traded away 3 starters, and now you have Kyron on bye. So that's a tough look. But you do have guys that should fill in nicely. And Phillip is kind of depleted right now with. Not that all these guys are studs, but kind of the combination of these 3 that you'd probably start all 3 of them: Tyreek, Xavier Worthy, and Addison, on top of Nico Collins getting injured. Tough look there, but we'll see what he can do. And so yeah, this week it's the Chiefs, Vikings, Dolphins, Rams on bye, and next up we just have the Bears and Cowboys. So a lighter week next week. Only guys I can really say here are Dak and CD. I wouldn't say any Bears player is going to kill a person because they don't have them, like Komet or
DJ Moore, maybe.
I mean, DJ Moore's been a bum all season until last week. Odunze and Keenan Allen are kind of
Allen is
meh,
not sprobable.
very meh. So, not a lighter week next week. We should see better scoring next week. I would say next week would fall under the category of a week where we might see a team that's actually bad get eliminated as opposed to a team that's just decimated by bye weeks. So we'll see. Getting into the graphs here. This is a Fantasy Pros versus Sleeper projections. A lot of the same names in the green: James, Mark, Johnny. Potter has moved into here because he got Saquon. We'll get into that trade. He got Saquon from Ben. Fleming's still here, and then new to this are Jake and Matt. Both looking in a good spot this week. I have fallen out. Me and Huff have fallen out of the green. We are, let's see, Fantasy Pros does not like us as much as Sleeper does. But then we have Ryan and Phillip pretty strongly in the red here. David's another one to call out. It seems like Fantasy Pros really does not like David's team. Actually has him lower than Phillip as the lowest besides Ben. But Sleeper thinks he's like right around the middle of the pack. So we'll see. This is your next week versus the rest of season. Same guys in the green, really. James, Mark, Johnny, Potter. Fleming is now up in here as opposed to... Wait, wasn't Fleming in the... No, Fleming was in the green. So yeah, all 5 of these guys were in the green on the last one. They're in the green on this one. They're looking good for rest of season as well. They are the top 5 for rest of season rating. I am number 6 in rest of season rating. I just am not looking that great this week relative to rest of season because Justin Jefferson's out. So that's how these bye weeks are really going to affect your weekly rating. David is looking bad all around, long-term and short-term, so it's a tough look for David. And then JC, Huff, and Ryan also kind of sneaking into this bottom left category. Jake, Matt, Phillip floating on the edge. And lastly, my favorite, the position strength budget chart. I am still in the green on this one, and then also joined by Potter, Johnny, Mark, who have been in the green on all of them. Those are your 3s this week. James and Fleming down here, their teams are strong, but they've spent. James spent a lot this week to get CD, so he fell down into this category. James was up here. Surprisingly, getting CD, I thought he'd be like more right on this graph because I thought his team was strong, and then he adds a top 5 receiver to it, but they have him right here. This is your rest of season position strength. It's kind of surprising to me. I think James is a little better than that. Ryan, you're just floating on this line of position strength. You're right in the middle of the pack. This is rest of season, though, so this would include Kyron when this week you don't have him. And then in your guys who are a little weaker but have the budget to work with it, Huff, Jake, JC. Actually, they have Huff as the weakest team rest of season. Surprising to me, just by position strength. Just behind David, and then David, Matt, Phillip in a bad spot here. They don't have a lot to work with, and they are weaker. And Jake and JC pretty average. All right. And that brings us to the overview here. As I said, Mark, Johnny, Potter are our threes. James is a 2.5. I think he deserves to be up here in the solid overall. As it's been, but now he's alone over here. Fleming, questionable long term, but he's good right now just because he doesn't have as much fab to work with. I think he only has 20. He did get some back from that Josh Allen trade, but still, he's definitely on the lower side of fab. And I have myself back down. I've been kind of hopping between this mid and solid group, so I believe I'm now in this kind of mid undetermined group, especially with Jefferson on bye. Jake does a big surprise. He has 2 this week. He's been at like 0 or 0.5 the last 2 or 3 weeks, so he has definitely improved his team this week, even though he lost Kyron. And I have Matt and Huff in here as well. Huff kind of really, according to the analytics, has fallen off from where he was. He was a 3 pretty strongly for the last couple weeks, and now he's a 1. His points only coming from budget and half a point from his sleeper projection this week, as opposed to Fantasy Pros. And then I have JC and Ryan. Ryan had a 0, a whopping 0, but I'm going to give him the quote-unquote promising long-term. I didn't really feel like throwing 4 down here. I think your team's actually better than it maybe shows on paper, and with Kyron back, that's where your good long term comes from. You're like right below the middle of the pack of fab. You're not like extremely low on fab. And JC, he still has fab, but his team is getting a little weaker. He hasn't made any like major moves that I can think of, so he's getting a little weaker relative to everyone else. But he has the money, so I'm going to give him a promising long term. And then I have Philip, David, and obviously Ben here in the danger zone. Philip, that was kind of a quick. Phil was looking good for multiple weeks, and all of a sudden, with these injuries and these buys, it's like just like that. He's in a really big trouble this week. So we'll see. All right, before we get into these, Ryan, you have 10 minutes before you have to go. I can just jump to your slide, so we can talk about it, and then you can give your elimination prediction.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's skip around.
All right, here we are. Your slide. You got 11th this week. You got your second Ice Cube. Your big moves this week. You got Pacheco, who's injured for the future. I mean, that'll be going back to what we were talking about earlier. I think before we started recording, is you have now.
Hold on.
What was that?
Sorry, say that again.
I was gonna say, as we were mentioning before, now your quad, your whatever you'd call it, 4 running backs of Kyron, Monty, Brees, and now Pacheco. When Pacheco comes back, if you make it that far, those are some formidable running backs there. Right now, you're without Pacheco and Kyron because of Kyron's bye. But to get those guys, you spent 23, traded away Keenan Allen, Jerome Ford, and Zay Flowers. And then your waiver moves were getting Andrews for $1 and the Texans defense, who have a good matchup this week against who is it? Browns?
Patriots.
Oh, Patriots. Yep. So the big question mark is just, is Mark Andrews a risky play? And he undebatably is a risky play.
Yeah.
I don't even think he hasn't even shown to have the upside that used to be there. It's not like, oh, he could score me 15 plus or 0. It's like, oh, he could score me 7 or 0.
7 or 0, yeah.
Yeah. But he's your second flex, so you have other guys that can get the job done probably.
Yeah, I think, 2 things. First of all, I think I texted you this. If the Broncos D scores 11, I am out, which is also pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, this week I'll be sweating it for sure. So, hopefully the big gun, like Brees, needs to snap out of it. Monty needs to continue what he's done because, I mean, the flexes are weak. I like Michael Wilson against Green Bay. Like, I think he's good for probably, a pretty consistent, at least 7-point floor. So,
sure.
Hopefully he can exceed that. But the Cardinals don't have a defense, and feels like they're, going to be in a lot of shootouts. So hopefully that's a good floor play. And Josh Downs has been great. Would love if Anthony Richardson wants to take another week off. But we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of want to go back to your Broncos defense point, because there's a lot of like very fine lines this week where, as Ryan said, for him, if the Broncos score 11 instead of 17, he's eliminated. And 11 is not a bad score at all for a defense, I wouldn't say. So that's a pretty fine line. If you look at Jack's team, who just lost by 0.18 to Matt, Jack and I were almost going to do a trade where I give him Ramondre and he gives me Antonio Gibson and Fab. But then once the news came out that Ramondre is quote unquote benched, Jack didn't want to do it. And at first I was a little hesitant to do it. So, I mean, that was a trade. If he did that trade and he had Ramondre this week instead of Antonio Gibson, he's safe. And if you look at Matt's team, who only beat him by 0.18, I mean, all it takes is one
Benching
player.
Kirk.
He did bench Kirk, actually.
Or starting Kirk, and that's what I meant. Starting Kirk, and he's like very safely not even
He
in the
might have even been let's see, he would have exactly. I mean, he scored 81, and that would have been 7. He would have almost scored 100 points last week if he started Kirk. So that's a pretty fine line. And then David, if looking at him, if he didn't win the bid for Kareem Hunt and start him, he'd be eliminated if he had a guy that only scored, say, like 6 or 8 points instead of.
And he got
18.
the bid right on the number, I believe.
I think so. So that's a very fine line. Joey and Ben. Joey could have been resurrected. He only 2 points behind Ben, and he didn't really have a bench, so I can't say he could have started someone over someone. But he picked Juju was his last guy, and Juju almost bailed him out, scoring almost 17 points on Monday night. And Ben, let's see, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was the decision of Caleb Williams over Purdy, and Ben is safe. So we're at the point. I almost made this kind of like my overview of the week is like decisions are really important now. It seems like one little decision can end your season. So kind of crazy. But
that's all I got. Yeah.
That's all you got. And you have
you want to jump to
34 fab now, right? Not 36.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll say, like obviously Pacheco is a bit of a long term play, but if you look at like Mark and Potter and like so many teams, like they have like whether it's CMC or Jonathan Taylor, who he'll be back any week now, but I think Potter has CMC, but and then there's Puka and Cooper Kupp and all these
guys,
all these stash players who like they're obviously not even factored into the this week projections.
The rest of season it is though. For those projections.
Right, but exactly. And once those guys come back, it's like it's all the best teams that think of Jack, who's kind of middle of the pack right now. You just drop in CMC. Yeah, Potter. Yeah, you drop in CMC and Cup to that lineup, and all of a sudden he's a top 3 team. So
right. I won't expect CMC to come back personally until
I heard they got some good news.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm not optimistic about him, is all I'll say. I would say 9 fab was an overpay to get him for a guy that might not even play. Or at very least, it's unlikely that Potter would be alive at the time he does play. Not that he can't make it far, but the odd it's not easy to make it far in a Guillotine league. It's a lot of luck. So, but yeah, good points. Good points to make. I have Hawkinson ready to go, and I heard he could be back by like week 9 or 10. So that's good news. And I also have Jonathan Brooks, who we'll see what he does, but he's coming back.
Yeah, I
think this week I think we'll see Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, I think the stash is a good long-term strategy, just to basically get a discounted piece that you can have later down the road without paying top dollar for somebody on waivers later on. But
right.
Anyway.
I agree. Before you head out, you want to give your hot take prediction? Who's getting eliminated this week?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is much of a hot take. I think I'm in the conversation, but I don't believe in picking myself. But I'm gonna go Matt. Philip is the obvious choice, but this is a hot take bit. So I'll go Matt. I don't love anybody on the Raiders, honestly. And
Madison, doesn't he now? I thought he had that trade where he got Madison.
It does have Madison. And I mean, Abdullah gets carries. Like, I don't know why anybody on the Raiders would be a fun experience. McConkey's got the Broncos, which has proven to be tough. So I think those are a couple tough matchups. Selfishly, I'm hoping that Harrison Jr.'s reps go to Michael Wilson. So part of the prediction is that. But yeah, I mean, we'll
If
see,
Jair can
and
lock him down, maybe then yeah.
yeah, yeah, and Amari Cooper at the flex. I like Cooper, but it's still the
Boom bust.
Browns offense. Yeah, so uh, I mean, it's a hot take. Phil's looking tough with some buys for sure. But yeah, that's my take.
I like it. And you will see my
All right,
take at the end of this video. I won't spoil it yet, but
all
thanks
right.
for
Well, I'm
hopping
gonna
on for a bit.
Yep. I'll see y'all.
All right, see you, Ryan.
Bye.
I don't know if he actually left yet. I'm going to go with he did. Either way, who cares? Let's go back. Starting us off. And by the way, before I keep going, if you guys want to, maybe I'll start sending a message out. I mean, not everyone's going to be free around 11 a.m., noon, 1 p.m. on a Thursday all the time. I work from home, so I can always find time somewhere in that window usually. But if you guys want to be on, don't hesitate to reach out. I would be happy to have anybody on to get some different perspectives in here. But so far, I've had people on now every week since like week 2. At least I've gotten Ryan on, who also works from home, so it's nice that we have kind of that flexible schedule. But let's get into these other teams, starting off with Mark. Your top scorer last week gets a star. I mean, his team is just kind of loaded. He has Caleb Williams and Baker. I don't know who he'll be starting, but the analytics likes Caleb Williams a little more this week, hence why he's on this graph. I believe he has a good matchup. Jaguars, I think, something like that. So, but the rest of his team is pretty loaded. I mean, I'm surprised they have Chase Brown as this high of an RB2. Crazy to think I had both of these guys. I drafted Chase Brown and I picked up Jordan Mason before week 1, so I could have both these guys right now, but I don't. I did trade both of them. I got 5 fab for each of them respectively. I should have gotten more. Not the greatest move by me, but hey, it is what it is. Jamar Ayuk popping off. Kittle's been great. I would like to believe that Garrett Wilson will improve with the Saleh firing, but we'll see. And then Devonta Smith, I mean, he's just pretty loaded right here. Not much else to say. So he's looking good right now, and he's got a good future too. He's got the fab to keep working with it. And he also got Jonathan Taylor for the future, so that'll be scary when he gets that going. I think getting rid of ETN's a great call. ETN is seemingly losing the job to Tank Bigsby. So, yeah. I think that's all I'll just say about Mark. He's looking good. Johnny, also looking good. He made some small moves this week, as I mentioned. Well, kind of my trade with Jack for Ramondre ended up turning into a trade with Johnny. We almost did a 3-way trade, me, Johnny, and Jack. But anyway, I ended up getting 5 fab. No, what did I get? 10 fab, and I got Dowdle. Well, Johnny got Dowdle in a trade and then also traded him to me in the span of 1 week. That's why I have this here. But I got Dowdle in fab, and I gave him Ramondre, and I'm pretty okay with that. And he seems to be pretty okay with that. Ramondre wasn't actually benched, so that was kind of a lie. But Johnny's looking pretty good this week. I will also say, now that we're past the first slide where it was Jamar as the GIF, I've never thought this late into the season I'd have to find this many new GIFs. Like, I save GIFs on my computer just so I can paste them in here and not have to search them every time. But I had to get a Slayton gift. Like, never thought I'd have to do that. Here we are. So, Slayton is top scorer last week. I think he moved on from him, or likely will not be starting him with Malik Neighbors coming back. But Johnny is looking pretty good with Justin Fields, James Cook, Ramondre, Malik Neighbors, Jaden Reed, Bowers being in, like, one of the best tight ends this year, Brian Thomas, and Pollard? Calvin Ridley? Who is this? Someone like that. I know I said this is a waste of time and I shouldn't do this, but let me check. Oh, it could be Tolbert. It's Calvin Ridley, but he might be starting Tolbert or Mixon this week. Johnny's got a pretty solid bench here as well. Roshan Johnson and 128 fab. So honestly, if Johnny doesn't win the entire league, I mean, Johnny or Mark are looking like the favorites right now. But if Johnny doesn't, then he really either had one terrible off week where he got eliminated, or he just really screwed it up somehow. Because he has all this fab and all these players. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to get to like the final 4 at least. But yeah, still owns the market in fab by a long shot, as we mentioned before. Me coming in, I get another flame. Haven't been in the bottom 25% yet, even though I've been close to it. Mooney, the Moon Man, was my big play on Thursday. Love coming out of a Thursday night game with a lot of points because it just makes you feel safe going into the week. Made me feel better about doing the Ramondre trade because I didn't feel like it was really going to affect me this week, my survival this week anyway. But yeah, I go and get Purdy and Kenneth Walker. Those guys are right into my lineup. And then, as I mentioned in that trade, I got Dowdle, who is probably staying in my lineup as well. I went and got Otten at tight end. I've been kind of just filling in guys at tight end week over week, and just awaiting my Hawkinson return. I look forward to that. Flacco also came in big for me this week. I've been successful plugging in like random veteran quarterbacks that are getting starts. Like I started Dalton on his big week. I started Geno Smith. I mean, he's the normal starter, but he's a veteran quarterback for sure. Geno Smith on his big, like 300-plus yard week, and then Flacco last week, crazy big week. So I've found a way to just swap in a good quarterback every week, and they all just happen to be veterans. So, yeah. Also picked up Xavier, who is it? Hutchinson, the Texans guy, who with Nico Collins out might see more opportunities. So we'll see how that goes. I look forward to him, but I wish I missed my fab already. I love Kenneth Walker. I'm glad. I'm kind of surprised no one else bid over 40 for him. So in theory, I overspent a bit, but got a guy that I'm happy about. But I don't love that I tanked my fab. I was doing a good job staying over 100, but better to be safe than sorry, I'd say. So I'm doing okay. Got Justin Jefferson on bye, as I mentioned. So we'll see if that affects me. I think I'll be fine. I feel pretty okay. Kenneth Walker kind of taking his place. Where did this picture go? This is a picture of Tank Bigsby. I couldn't find a GIF of Tank Bigsby. Also, yeah, Mooney. I did not have a Mooney GIF saved on my computer, so that's a new one. This was just a picture of Tank Bigsby. I don't know where that went, but didn't think I'd have to find one. I couldn't find a GIF of Tank Bigsby, frankly. I used Giphy, and they did not have any, so I didn't feel like looking any farther than that. Just grabbed a picture. But James also makes a big waiver move this week. Gets a CD Lamb for 46, same price that I got Walker for. I think I was the second highest bid on Lamb. I was also up there on Lamb. I was ready to make a big move. T. Higgins and Jordan Love were big for James last week as well. I mean, this is just a solid team. You see a lot of green. It's a good thing to see. If your worst player relatively is T. Higgins at wide receiver 2, then I'd say you're in a pretty good spot. He's got Olave and Tank Bigsby at the flexes. So, yeah, I still really like James's team. He did spend a lot, so having 27 fab is a little on the low side. But these are guys you can ride with for a long time, I'd say, for at least like a good 5 more weeks before you need to start swapping them out. And Tank Bigsby's a good example of a guy that a smart move, a smart money move. He got him for like only $4 last week. That was kind of before the huge amount of hype came to him. He'd be a lot more expensive this week, so he got him before he was super expensive, and he'll be a good starter, I think, for weeks to come with ETN kind of slipping away. But we will see. James is looking good. Now on to Huff's team. Yeah, I didn't have a Drake London gift yet either, surprisingly. I mean, he's a good player, but did not have a gift for him yet, meaning he's never been a team's top scorer in my time of making these videos starting last year. Kyler Kraft, big week from Kraft. I mean, he's now Kraft and Dallas Goedert. Those are 2 really good tight ends, I'd say. So, good luck for him. He could probably trade one of those guys for good value, but I think he's just going to start them both. This week with Achane on bye, I mean, Achane's been disappointing. He has Algier subbing in right here at the RB2. But the rest of his team is pretty solid. Shakir may or may not come back from injury. I have Shakir in other leagues, and I would love him to come back. But he makes really no huge moves. Grabs Mike Williams in the Falcons D for 0. So his team is still very, I used to say maybe very solid. I'd say his team is very average or maybe slightly above average. But he has a lot of fab. So I think he's still in a good spot for the long run. But at some point you got to start spending and getting someone to make your team a little safer. But he's sticking with his guys for now. All right, Phil's team. Lamar came up big last week. That's great typo. At least I'll catch it sometimes. It's supposed to say Nico Collins, who played like 4 snaps and 70 yards and a touchdown. So it's pretty funny. Could have had a huge game if he played the whole game, but now he's on IR. I thought when he got hurt at first it wasn't going to be long term, but IR. At least 4 weeks he's out. So really the way I look at Phil's team is he is in a tough spot this week. He knows it. It's pretty apparent. He's got a lot of guys on bye, Tyreek, Worthy, Addison, and he's got Nico Collins hurt, and he picks up Pittman to like fill in probably a flex, and now Pittman's doubtful, so Pittman's probably not playing. So Ray McLeod, I mean, I saw he dropped Yosavash and picked up Slayton, I think. So I didn't update the things that happened this morning. This was all finished last night. But he does do a move where he traded Akers away for 5 fab. Probably a good move with Mixon coming back and needs any fab he can get. He only has 8 right now. So, yeah. Also, if, I think to monitor is if Devin Singletary does not play, he'll benefit from having Tracy. So Phil, I'm sure, would really need that to happen. Would love that to happen, but Phil's in a tough spot this week. Lazard, Odunze are his top 2 receivers. That's a pretty bad look. And Ray, Yosevach / Slayton / Tracy. I think Lamar and Bijan need to really carry the load this week. Big time. And Bijan has not, so he needs to start doing it. Or Phil could be in a tough spot this week. All right, wait, this was no, I already had that GIF, and I already had this GIF as well. So, but I'll mention the new GIFs. There was a lot. I spent a lot of time searching GIFs this week, so it felt worth it to bring up. Okay, why is this popping up? Go away. It's blocking my screen. There we go. Burrow with a big week for JC. Burrow and Jamar both with the big weeks. Love to see it, except we lost the game, and I want to punch a wall about it, but well, that's against the point. JC's got a pretty average team right now. I mean, he's got some strong points for sure. Burrow, and then at running back he's strong, and at his flexes he is seemingly pretty strong. It's just his wide receivers that are the bigger weak point. Christian Kirk and Juwan Johnson are his 2 guys. The good news is he has fab to work with, so he can improve from here. And the Vikings defense has been a big scorer for JC, and you would never think, a defense being on bye, that doesn't matter, but the Vikings D are on bye, so we will see if that affects him. Tampa Bay is who he plugged in. I did not see their matchup. They have New Orleans, so probably should... Oh, that's actually great. This should be better than 11 without Derek Carr. They should be able to trash on them. But, yeah, JC's looking okay. I think he's gotten a little weaker as the season has progressed, but he has the fab. Oh, and he got Trey Tucker for $0, which I didn't realize he was even sitting out there. I would have grabbed him probably, but it's a good little $0 move there with Devontae probably leaving. And he has Devontae too. So, all right, Jake's team. Gino, I did have this gift because it was my gift for my side last week. Jake regretted me trading him Gino, or he regretted giving me 4 or 3, whatever he gave me fab for Gino. But hey, he was your top scorer and you survived, so I'd say it was a money well spent. But now he's got Jalen Hurts coming back. AJ Brown should be coming back from injury, so that's another reason why Jake is much better off this week. It's not necessarily the move he made to get rid of Kyron and grab other guys, while he is starting most of those guys. Ford, Flowers, and Keenan Allen. He's starting all of them. Or at least the analytics say he should. But he's also getting Hurts off a bye and A.J. Brown back from injury. So all that together, and Jake is in a much more safe spot this week. We'll see. I do like Kyron for the long run, but might have been a good move for Jake so that he can see another week this week. 77 fab is a good amount to have at this point. So he's not out of it, even though I've been putting him on as my prediction every week. So he did a good job. He survived through the valley, and now he's coming back out, it seems like. Potter does the big move to get Barkley because Ben was desperate and traded away CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I would take Barkley over Lamb just because running backs are harder to come by, and Barkley's been the top fantasy scorer through the season this year, so hard to argue with that. He also gets Pickens and 6 fab. Pickens has been a little bit disappointing this year, but not a bad flex play. Jaden Daniels, Saquon, Bucky Irving is kind of still on the up. DJ Moore, Jameson Williams, Kyle Pitts. I mean, it gets a little more questionable as you come down the line here, but he's got plenty of safety, I would say. And he's in a solid spot and has 80 fab, so I like his position for sure right now. All right, David's team, not in the bottom 25% this week. Kareem Hunt leading the way. And now Kareem Hunt is on bye. But he grabbed a bunch of other guys. He did get ETN in that kind of big 3-way trade, and he got Pollard. He dumps off his injured Pacheco, injured Jonathan Taylor, and dumps off Rico Dowdle. But he gets 10 fab. Now he has 10 fab because he spent his last 6 on Singletary, but then got 10 back. So, yeah, getting Singletary for 6 is probably a good budget move. I think Singletary's startable for the foreseeable future. We don't know if he'll play this week, but if he does, I'm sure he'd sub in here for Jacoby Myers or Braylon Allen. Apparently, Josh Allen, the matchup isn't super favorable this week. They have the Jets. I knew that. So, yeah, Josh Allen could very well pop off for 30 plus, or he'll do his like 10-point thing that he's been doing every so often. But David seems to be okay. He's not by any means super safe, but some guys that have been performing, Tank Dell should see an improved workload, target share with Nico Collins out. And I feel like it's about time that Jacoby Myers has a good game because he is the wide receiver 1 with Devontae out. So we'll see. And we'll see if Evan Ingram finally comes back from injury. But Steelers D is good for him. They have the Raiders this week, so should be good. Unless Jacoby Myers pops off, then maybe not good. But yeah, I think that's all there is to say about David. He's in a tough spot long term with not a lot of fab and not a lot of like studs outside of Josh Allen might be his only quote unquote stud, which is tough. You probably want more than one at this point in the season, but it's where he's at. He's going to try to work with it. All right, we already hit on Ryan. I'm not going to go over it again, but he's down to 34 fab. Spent 2 on Juju is the only thing that was not on this slide from this morning. But Ryan picks up another Ice Cube, and now Fleming getting Mike Evans again. Oh wait, I should go back. Yeah, I didn't have a Kareem Hunt. Who even cares? I mean, I don't even know why I'm saying this. I had to go find the Kareem Hunt. But all these other ones I've had, actually. But I think we're about to get into some more that I did not have. Fleming, what he does. He does not have a lot of fab, but he spent 9 on Shaheed. I mean, Shaheed's been great. He's outside of his one goose egg, he scored double-digit points every week, and I think scored in 3 of those 4 weeks. So he's been great, but I don't know if not having Derek Carr is going to hurt him or not, so it's definitely a risk. 9 fab could be a decent steal if he continues his production, but that's to be seen. He also gets Kirk Cousins and trades away Sam Darnold and Madison. Don't know how I feel about that. Could be overreacting to the good Cousins performance, or the Falcons are about to get it rolling and Cousins is going to keep having great games, but Darnold has been, outside of last week, has been a fantastic quarterback, and Alexander Madison is like a touchdown guy every week, it almost seems. So, and he's stealing the job from Zamir White. So, I kind of like the Darnold-Madison side of this more than the Cousins side, but we'll see. He's good at receiver, Amon-Ra and Stephon Diggs, who will benefit greatly from Nico Collins being out. In theory, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, really solid at receiver, I would say. And then somewhat weak for the rest of it. Brian Robinson and Tyjae Spears? Tyjae Spears? Is that who that is? No, it's Zach Moss. Wait, no, he should have Zach Moss, but I think we're worried about Zach Moss not playing. So it will be Tyjae Spears if Zach Moss is not playing. And Kincaid in New Orleans defense. Tough to bank on a defense that has a new quarterback in, because if the offense can't get anything going, it's not going to do the defense any favors. They're going to be on the field a lot, getting tired. But we'll see. We shall see about that. Kelsey is on bye. That's the other thing to mention, but team's pretty solid, low on fab, though. All right, Matt's team, who the other side of this trade, he gets the Darnold and Madison. I kind of like that. Cousins is not his starting quarterback anyway. He starts Dak, so now he has Dak and Darnold, which he can kind of flip-flop those guys every week and fill Darnold in when Dak is on bye next week. But he gets Amari Cooper for 17. Might be a little bit of an overpay, but if he can start producing off of how many targets he gets, could work out, but it's not like Amari Cooper is not getting targeted. He's just not getting a lot of catches or production outside of that 1 week. Grabs the Eagles defense, who play the Browns. Should be a good matchup. And he also grabs Conklin. But his team's pretty okay. This is Trey Sermon. We're kind of depending on JT being in or out. If he does not have Sermon, then he will have Alexander Madison. So not a terrible alternative. And yeah, he's at 37 fab. No, wait. I think he's at 20 now. I forgot to update this one. Whoops. He actually spent 17 on Amari Cooper. Dealing with all that whole fixing the waivers was a headache, but I'm glad it's fixed. Unless we missed something, but no one's complaining yet, so I think we're good. I think Matt's in a little bit of a tough spot with not having a lot of fab, but he's got some firepower with DK and Marvin Harrison, and Sam Laporta should be good. Should hopefully start being good. He hasn't been great this year, but we will see. The Cowboys have the Lions, so Dak is in theory due for a good game. Those always seem to be shootouts. So, yeah. that is that for Matt. And now one last look at Jack's team. He almost pulled off another week of survival after Resurrection, but couldn't quite do it. But I think he gave it a great effort. He was making a lot of trades and a lot of moves to try to... He was not hesitating to spend almost all that 50 fab or so that he got back to give himself a chance. He just barely missed it. 0.18. It was very close. But hey, if you took my Ramondre deal, man, you'd be here right now. So, I don't know. Tough look. But I don't disagree with the decision because Gibson, in theory, was supposed to be the starter. But that was just a straight-up lie, it appears. Not only did Ramondre just break the one big one off, but he also got more carries. So, I don't know what that report was all about. Tough look for Jack. Scored 81. And Ben getting gulagged. Shahid scored the most points for him this week. In theory, I would not have a Shahid gif if I was putting one on here, but when you're getting gulagged, I'm not putting we're not celebrating, so we're not putting a gif on your slide. So he's done, he picked up a lot of guys. I think some of this has changed maybe. I saw he picked up some more guys this morning. But ultimately, I think he's going to be starting Daniel Jones, Antonio Gibson. I mean, I could just go to his team as opposed to reading this because what is actually on his team is going to be more accurate. Gus Edwards. Ooh, Antonio Gibson. He could start Zeke or Cam Akers, but we'll see. I don't love the Gus Edwards move. Alec Pierce is a nice, like, boom-bust play. You kind of need those at this point. DeAndre Hopkins could be good. Isaiah Likely is a risky play, but what can you do? Tight ends are tough, and he at least has the upside. Quentin Johnson and Josh Palmer. He's got both Chargers receivers. In theory, one of those guys should do well. I don't hate the philosophy there of doing that if that's what he was going for. And then he's got the Colts defense against the Titans, which could be a good move. And Daniel Jones against Cincinnati, so we will see. He also has Taysom on his bench, so he could play Taysom if he needs to at tight end. Might be a little bit of a safer play, but no guarantee. And if Ben comes back, he'll have 23 fab. He had 46 when he got gulagged. So, yeah, we'll see. Ultimately, he couldn't make it past the Barkley bye. But hey, by the way, I have 3 of Ben's players, so maybe that's not a good thing. I've got Purdy, Kenneth Walker, and Kate Otten. So, Ben, thank you for your donation to the cause. Those guys feel like are pretty decent. Kenneth Walker's great, but the other guys are at least pretty decent. All right, Joey. Last look at Joey. I mean, as we mentioned, the injury bug. What can you do? Juju gave him a glimpse of hope on Monday night. Daniel Jones came through with 22. Daniel Jones has been like the head of the Gulag crew at quarterback. People seem to keep starting him, and he's doing well for them when people do start him. 75 is a pretty solid score considering it was a double week where we had Jack also kind of scrounging through the waivers. So I'd say Joey, especially considering that he wasn't active immediately. He didn't finish filling out his team until like Saturday or Sunday. So great job with the decisions he made then, like getting Juju. So good look for Joey. He tried his best, but couldn't ultimately get it done. And my power rankings, as we do, I'm keeping Mark, Johnny, and Huff at the 1, 2, and 3. I'd considered moving James up to 3, but simply the fab is the difference I'm going to make here. I think James is a better team than Huff, but Huff has 95 fab, James has 27, so less to work with going forward. But James is still really solid. Fleming just down 1 because of James. I think I'm up to 6. I think I'm a pretty just about above average team right now. Now that I've spent a little bit of fab, I'm still above average on fab, but not by much. Potter moves up pretty significantly, 3 spots with the addition of Saquon. And yeah, Potter has plenty of room to keep moving up with the fab that he has and the guys that he has injured / on bye. Actually, I don't know if he has anyone on bye. That might be just a lie. No, he has Cup and Mostert, but Cup's injured anyway. And CMC could eventually come back, as we mentioned before. So Potter has a lot of room to go up. JC is slipping a little bit, but he still has the fab. Ryan, I think, stays exactly where he is. He gets Kyron, but he's on bye, so good long-term. Doesn't really help you this week. So Ryan's in a little bit of a tough spot this week. Phillip, I have him going down 2. You could argue farther, but it's just I'm not going to base someone's overall rankings that strongly based off bye weeks, but it's not just that. It's really the Nico Collins injury is what I'm bumping him down based off of. But this week especially, he's in a tough spot with all the byes as well on top of the injuries. Matt goes up to 11. Pretty average, slightly below average team. He's low on fab, which doesn't help, but he should be okay. I mean, he's not in like a super dangerous spot yet, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't really have anything specific to say. Just I think he's right. This is where he lands, right around 11. You could flip-flop him and Phillip at this point maybe, but I have David at 12. You know, his team, as we know, is not great. But, you know, I could also make an argument to flip David and Jake here because Jake gets Hurts back and A.J. Brown back, but he does lose Kyron. But still, long-term, I don't love Jake's situation. I mean, I really probably should flip David and Jake here because David doesn't have the fab. Go back. But either way, neither are in like a fantastic spot, so they're down here. And Ben, obviously, in last. All right. Lastly, the hot take. Prediction to get guillotined. Ryan went with Matt. Looking at Matt's team right now, I mean, I see the matchups that are tough. Madison, McConkey have tough matchups, but I kind of like the rest of his team. So I'm not going Matt. I will say that. Spoiler alert. Here's who I have. Hello? What are we doing? Okay. Great. Fantastic. No one knows. Who could it be? I will just say it. I have Phillip. I have Phillip going this week. Not the craziest hot take ever. It's maybe the least crazy hot take I've ever made. I mean, the Jake ones weren't hot either, but I was wrong about him, so I just want to get one right, okay? Not that I want Phillip to go, but he is really, truly who I believe is in a really tough spot this week. Lamar needs to put up like 30+. Bijan probably needs to do 20+, and some other guys here and there need to step up and get their job done, but Phil is absolutely in a tough spot given all the injuries and buys, so I can't really count on him surviving this week. But yeah, that is my take. That is the week 6 video. I kept it under an hour, but I'd probably be better if I can get these more to around 45 minutes. I need to shut up sometimes. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Reach out to me if you guys ever want to be on these videos. Record them around noon on Thursdays. But yeah, good luck this week. Don't get guillotined.